Hi, this is Brian from OPN, the Open People Network, and we're here at the last Up series of 2018, presented by BCAD, the City of Whitby, Vitalize, and of course OPN. I'm here with Russ Montague, and to say that you've had a varied background is an understatement, probably. Can you just go through, because it is a kind of an extensive list, but just give us the short version of what you've done and what you're currently doing?
Absolutely. So, I've been really fortunate to have a lot of different jobs. Most of my personal business experience comes from e-commerce. So our first company, Shirt Punch, was an apparel company with a bit of a gimmick. It was one shirt every 24 hours for $10. From there, we launched a subscription box company, Nerd Block. We grew that to, one of the largest in the world. After exiting those companies, I now am a contractor for tons of different companies working on all sorts of different projects, but specifically the one I'm most excited about is a board game cafe, a chain of them that we're launching here in Ontario that I think will do very, very well, and it's very current, it's very experiential, so I'm taking everything I've learned online and bringing it offline.
That does sound like some light activity.
It's definitely going to be fun.
So you have a 10 commandments list of things to do and not to do. One of the things that you did mention is know what you're selling. Oh, I should actually talk into the mic. It's like that Monty Python sketch. I don't know if you've ever seen it. So knowing what you're selling, and that's I always find that interesting because it's almost subtextual, I guess, to some people. Like something that I was told a long time ago is that McDonald's isn't in the burger business; it's in the real estate business. That's really what their power is there. So, can you just go over maybe a couple of your some of the commandments that you think are the most important, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, definitely knowing what you're selling is important. And I think it's more than just knowing the product. It's knowing how that product connects to people. It's knowing what it is about that product that makes them commit to the purchase. Whatever that is, that's what you're selling. Excitement, happiness, relaxation, you name it. Whatever that feeling is, that's what you're really selling. And that's what you need to play up. Definitely one of my 10 commandments. Another one I really follow, and it's the one that I follow most personally, is don't retreat, reload. You're going to get knocked down, especially as an entrepreneur. You're going to get knocked down all the time. You've got to be able to get back up, reload your guns, and get out there again. The fight's not over. It's still going on. And I think it's very important that people understand that they're going to get knocked down, but they got to get up again. And that's really the measure of a person.
Excellent. Is there anything any advice that you would give to new entrepreneurs?
Yeah, just keep going. Every hurdle you hit is a hurdle someone else hit, and they just didn't overcome it. And by you overcoming it, you're pushing yourself closer and closer to success, whatever success means to you. You're getting there. Durham region and Canada, we have such great entrepreneurial abilities and people that are connecting people with other people. It's just such a great time to be an entrepreneur. And I think the message is just keep going. Just keep boxing on. Hard work and dedication always yields results. That's what being an entrepreneur is. And I just think it's to quit at the first hurdle is to not really be an entrepreneur.
Well, great. It was a great talk. It was a full house too. It was a great attendance, and hopefully we'll see you back here again, maybe for an update at some point. And hopefully we'll see you all next year.
Very happy to be able to put this event on. We couldn't do it without all of these partners that we have. Up sales started, we're in our second year and going into a third. When it started out, it was about most businesses have a challenge continually doing lead generation and sales and looking after their sales funnel. And so this started as, can we create a little bit of an event that has some education, but really an opportunity to network, an opportunity to hear stories from people wherever they are in their business journey. So we think it's been pretty successful, and we feel that a lot of the people in the room and a lot of people who keep coming back, thank you very much for coming back, is that there is some value to this, and that this is a part that most businesses struggle with. So we're really stoked to be able to bring these great speakers. Thank you, Frank, for bringing those speakers in. This is happening during the Do It in Durham week, which I want to thank all of you that know about Do It in Durham and that you are out at the events and promoting. It started 6 years ago as an opportunity to bring our entrepreneurial community together. It is in part with Global Entrepreneurship Week, which happens around the world, 170 countries, and there's 35,000 events that happen in this week around the world. So thankfully for us, Durham has at least 55 events in this week. So it's an opportunity for you to make friends and to meet new people, to network, to find funders, and to find people that you can perhaps work with and get some business out. And also an opportunity to sharpen your skill set so that you as a business owner stay relevant and that your business stays successful. So I'm very thankful that you guys are all taking part in Do It in Durham. We couldn't, again, do it without the partners that we have that help us. One of the partners I really want to give a thank you to is Daniel from the town of Whitby. There's a lot of events that we do together. We couldn't do it without getting the space taken care of. Renting a space like this is $500. We couldn't do it without the town of Whitby. Daniel and I also did the Digital Durham program together. Again, another program. I can't do these programs without the partners, without people coming together and helping. So Daniel, I want to thank you for all your help. He also helps sponsor Fantastic Treats to bring some coffee and tea every morning. Thank you, Daniel. Anyway, I'd like to invite the town of Whitby up to speak. They've got some really interesting things on the go. I'd love to hear. Thank you.
Thanks for the kind words, Teresa. We're always happy to sponsor and contribute and partner to this program, and now completing its second year. Great speakers, and really excited to hear about Russ. We've been with Russ the whole journey, so great contributor, great part of the business community. I just want to also mention that I'm joined here with other members of the town of Whitby. Peter LaBelle is right here with, he's Commissioner of Community and Marketing Services. He's got a large portfolio, facilities, parks and recreation, economic development. So he's got a lot on his plate. We're also joined here with Sheila McGrory. She's the manager of economic development. And my colleague here at the back is Braden Searsma, is research and program coordinator in economic development. So we'll be here. If you have any questions, we'll be in the room. Talk to you later.
So Frank, if I can invite you up to introduce our speaker today, we're looking forward to that.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Wow. Hello, and good morning. I love this event. When Teresa and I were having lunch, we knew there was a need, but we're actually going into our 13th year. Or sorry, our third year. We've had 18. There's a lot going on this week. We had 18 speakers. Some of them are in the room. Audrey was our speaker last month. Pavel was one of our speakers. Without the speakers, I personally believe that there's a wonderful environment of sharing, which everybody really wants to help somebody else, and I think that's why this is so popular, is that you do hear people's journeys, and you learn the good and the bad from it, but you also make some amazing contacts. But I also want to give a shout out to you guys, because we realize you have a choice, especially this week with 51 events, and you packed the house again. So thank you so much for being here. I told Teresa that I have the best job volunteering on this project, because I get to sort of suggest the speakers, and they all have something different to bring. Russ, first of all, I'll be very upfront. Where Russ and I really connected is his greatest love, even though he just got married, is his dog. As you people know, my greatest love is my cat above my wife. So we sort of connect there quite well. I first met Russ at an Up Next event, which was for 18 to 29-year-old entrepreneurship program. And Russ got up on stage and was telling a story about Iron Man, and I hope he shares that with you, because I've asked him to share it with you. But I also thought, holy crap, his dad invested $2,000 in him, because when you're investing, as you know, it's not just the horse, it's also the jockey, and he turned that $2,000 into 100 million US sales, and he became the 7th largest subscription box in the world. And that's quite an accomplishment. And I won't take all his thunder. So I am extremely excited to have him today. And also, he is a friend. We've become friends. He's also helping us with the Humane Society, obviously having a love for his dog, Punky. So if you will just bear with me a sec, I really want to just introduce to you Russ. First of all, I wanted to let you know what we promised, and maybe I should look at the rest of the papers. So here's what we promised today. With a $2,000 loan from his parents to a 200,000 square foot warehouse with over 150 employees, join Russ Montague as he walks you through his journey from startup to exit and everything in between, including the good, the bad, and the ugly that accompanies being an entrepreneur. With a focus on sales and growth, Russ will discuss the pressures, pitfalls, hidden obstacles that entrepreneurs face every day. We'll share his list of the 10 commandments, that I'm really looking forward to, that every entrepreneur should follow, and we'll discuss what entrepreneurs should be looking forward to after the exit of the company, sale of the company, or in your next venture. So please, his bio. After a brief but memorable career in the film and TV industry, Russ decided to leave the corporate world behind and branch out on his own as he launched the first of his 2 companies. First company was Shirt Punch, a flash retail website which specialized in popular culture-themed t-shirts available only in that 24-hour period, that one shirt only available that day. Just 1 year later, the company had sold more than 1 million t-shirts and was awarded both Best New E-Business and Consumer Choice at the 2012 Canada Post E-Commerce Awards. You can see that Russ was way ahead on the e-commerce side. Following the success of Shirt Punch, Russ launched his second business in 2013, which is called NerdBlock, right here in Durham region, a monthly subscription service that delivered geek-themed apparel, toys, and collectibles that had shipped more than 1 million collectible subscribers by the end of its first year opening. Think about that, 1 million within the first year of opening. NerdBlock grew to be Canada's largest subscription box service, featuring 7 different monthly subscriptions, and has partnered with brands such as Star Wars, Marvel, Funko, and more. In 2015, NerdBlock was the recipient of the Best Consumer Engagement Award at the Canada Post E-Commerce Awards, making their family of companies the highest award recipients in Canadian history. Right here in Durham. Following the sale of both companies, Russ's passion now lies in assisting with the growth of startups by the way of adding significant value and assisting with both the planning of an exit and the final sale. Russ has been instrumental in the Toys R Us bankruptcy. That's where he's been really busy lately, buying up all that stuff, and liquidate sale, and is partnered in a series of projects, including a chain of board game cafes, an experiential digital display, and signage company, just to name a few. I'm really excited to introduce to you my friend, somebody I have a great respect for. Russ, please join me in welcoming Russ Montague.
Amen. Thanks, Frank. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. This is really cool to be here. I get to do a lot of speaking events, and it's always fun. My style is to kind of wing it, so I'm going to loosely follow my presentation that I put together. We'll see where this conversation goes, but my style is just really keep it sort of real in terms of what happens when you are an entrepreneur. A lot of people like to sort of sing the Cinderella story and just talk about all the good stuff. There's a lot of bad that comes with it as well, and everything in between, and I think it's important everybody sort of understands that. So, but before we get into it, how many people here are entrepreneurs or planning on being? That's a big portion of the room. So everybody else, I'm assuming, just saw a good opportunity to not go to work this morning and come in. I appreciate the hustle. You guys are taking money opportunities when you see them. That's great. So listen, I'm a bit of an eccentric guy. I'm a bit of a weird guy. I follow the beat of my own drum, and I always have been, I always will be. And that's kind of where I've landed and how I've achieved certain things. And whether it's impressive or not, it's up for you to decide. But I will tell my Iron Man story. I'll start with that, because that really opens up the world for me. So my whole life I wanted to do special effects in movies. Unfortunately, I'm terribly not artistic, and that turns out to be a skill you really need to do that stuff. So I had to get real and figure out what I was going to do. And so I went to Durham College, great school, went for advertising. It all clicked, everything made sense. Coming out of that, I decided, you know what, I really want to be in the movie business. So I found out Universal Studios, their head office was in Scarborough. And for like 2 months, I went there every day and just really pestered them until they finally found a role for me. And inevitably, they did. And so I got in, and the timing was perfect. And I was on their publicity and promotion side, launching movies, things like 40-Year-Old Virgin, Born Supremacy, Chronicles of Riddick, all these really cool movies. And I was launching these. It was a lot of fun. And my boss was this super eccentric person, and she was always freaking out about things. And one day, she comes into my office like a tornado and just says, hey, listen, what are you doing tomorrow? I don't even care. Clear your schedule. You need to go on a press junket. So I find out it's with Robert Downey Jr., which this was my first press junket, my first access to a celebrity. And some people have heard this story, so if you have, don't ruin the punchline. So we go on a press junket. For those who don't know what a press junket is, you do one of two things. You sit in a hotel room all day, and the celebrity sits there, and interviewer after interviewer comes in and gets asked the same set of questions over and over. And you know, you see this on Extra and Access Hollywood and all these shows. The other thing you do is you travel around. You travel around to all these big cities. And so we were traveling, and we had a flight delay. And there were only about 5 of us, Robert included. And we had to drive from, I think it was like Chicago to New York, something like that. It wasn't a terribly long drive, but we get going, and after a while we stop at this little gas station, and across the street is one of those pop-up sort of amusement parks that go into, like, you know, a parking lot. And Robert's really into this, and he really wants to go over and do it, and I'm his handler, so I got to follow him. So over we go. And we're walking around, and we're looking at all the different rides and all the different things to do there. And there's this ride that's called, at the time it was called the Turkish Twister, which by today's standards is terribly racist, but they, you know, this is carnival life. They can get away with anything. And so it's really a gravitron. And if you've ever been in one of these things, you go in and it spins and the forces, you stick to the wall and you can't move, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Not for me, but it's a lot of fun apparently for other people. So we get on, and here's Robert and I and a bunch of other people in this ride. It's probably 20 people on the ride. And the floor drops out. That's the whole thing of the ride. The floor drops out and you're just free hanging there. Sure enough, for some reason, Robert's pants get caught in these giant, like, Frankenstein bolts coming out of the floor. And when that floor drops out, and I swear to God, if you weren't there, you wouldn't even believe it happened, but it was like he was a Chippendale dancer because his pants, poof, just right off, right? So he's now on this ride with me beside him, and you know, and this thing is spinning pretty fast, and there's not much I can do. And so he's trying to cover himself, but you really can't move. So he ends up kind of doing this motion like this, which showcases what's happening as opposed to, you know. So the ride comes to an end, and the floor comes up, and these pants must have been in 50 different pieces all over the place. And he looks at me and says, what are we going to do? I said, I mean, this is really more your problem than mine. But so he says, look, I need your pants. You know? I said, I don't know if this is an option. He says, you got to go to the Lost and Found and see if there's pants there. And I said, you know, what type of park do you think we're at that there's pants in the Lost and Found, right? So sure enough, I gave him my pants. And what was I to do, right? Again, but a money opportunity, and I saw it. So I gave him my pants. I then said, let's run back to the car. He said, no, it'll look better if we walk. I thought that would be really weird because I didn't have pants anymore. So we walked, and that put me on the map with Universal Studios. And the reason I bring this story up, first of all, Frank loves it, so any opportunity to tell it. But you know what? It was really interesting. It was a really interesting event because I became known as this guy. So immediately I went from the least known person in the company to someone who was just being talked about everywhere. And I really believe that this opened a lot of doors for me. And I think it's important for people to see those opportunities, and especially as you're going through business, because I've had many of them through, you know, the businesses I've done where these weird little moments happen, and if you follow, you know, that rabbit hole, you never know where you'll go. So all of a sudden I became this guy that was known for this funny story, and I told it, and if it sounds like I've told it 100 times, because I have. And but what was interesting is it started putting me on the map in different ways. And so while my career started at Universal on the film side, it actually largely went to the songwriting side. I became a songwriter because, of course, all of a sudden it was, hey, this guy will do anything at any time. So they were filming this movie in Oshawa called Camp Rock with the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato, and they needed somebody on set, and they needed it today, and I lived in Oshawa, and it just was, get Russ, he'll do anything. And I started writing music, and next thing you know, I was a music writer. And so for years, I was a music writer, and that's really what got me into being an entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was never my plan. I was always going to work for a company, you know, a big corporation. And but when you're a songwriter, you're really independent, and you're trying to find all the new avenues and the new big celebrities. And you know, I got to do really cool work, Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift and all these really great people before they turned into these mega stars. But it was a very entrepreneurial sort of way of going about things. And so very quickly, I got headhunted by Canada's Wonderland. And I became Canada's Wonderland PR person. And it was just this wild ride I was on where I was doing all these really fun things in the media with celebrities and name dropping and going to these parties. And I knew people like Justin Bieber by first name, and he knew me. And it was just like, wow, okay, all this is happening. But then one day, I had this idea for a company, and it was rattling around in my head for a while. And I couldn't shake it, and at the same time, I set up this really big concert at Canada's Wonderland that nobody thought would do anything. And when it did, it landed. It was huge. It was called the Z103 Summer Rush. Some of you may have heard of it in its time. We had everyone from Lady Gaga to Rihanna to, you name it. We had a lot of big celebrities there. And this was me. I had set this up. And I remember, I'll never forget, I came in the next day after the huge successful event, millions of dollars brought into this company, and my boss, who had crapped all over this the whole time, he had beat me to the punch, sent out this huge email taking full credit for it. He got a big bonus, didn't share it with me. So I basically said, never again. I'm not allowing this to happen to me ever again. And out of pure spite, I created my first company. You'll probably find throughout my journey, everything I do is out of spite. It seems to be a motivator for me. So get on my bad side and I'll come right at you. No, it's, so Shirt Punch was launched. And the idea behind Shirt Punch was that there are millions of artists all over the world doing really cool designs, parodies of pop culture, just great artistic designs. And they've all got these micro followings. And I thought, you know what if we could find a place? What if we could find a single house to display all these shirts? And what if we put a cool twist on it? So my twist was one shirt every 24 hours, always $10. I figured $10 is the college kid's price. Anybody can afford it, even if you're in college. 24 hours gave it a limited feel, put a lot of pressure on it. A lot of people, I'm just gonna buy this shirt. I don't know if I really want it or not, but it's gone in 6 hours. I'm gonna get it, it'll never be shown again. And the interesting thing was, for me, the way I really focused on generating sales was that I figured these guys all had followings. And if they just kept pointing all their audience to me every day, these audiences are going to start to compound and start to grow. And all of a sudden, I'm going to have 100 times the size of the audience. And they're still going to have their smaller audiences, which is great for them. But now they're going to be relying on me to get the big sales. So it was an interesting turn of events. And as it turned out, it worked. I had never called in any celebrity favors. I did for this. I got a bunch of celebrities to push me and get me off the map. And very quickly, Shirt Punch started to grow in this huge rise of printing shirts. And we had to figure it out. All of a sudden, we sold 1,000 shirts in our first 24 hours. We didn't have a printer. We didn't know anything about the shirt printing industry. I didn't know anything about e-commerce. I just put it up for sale and it sold, and it worked. And so then we had to figure that out. And that was its own challenge. Going through, sorting it out, finding printers, finding reliable printers, figuring out logistics and shipping. A lot of trial by fire, a lot of really difficult stuff. But the success was there, and the fun was there, and the excitement, hey, it's working, it's really working. And if you're an entrepreneur, and you can get to a point where your company is sustainable, it's that great feeling of like, oh my God, this is working. I'm doing something that's actually resonating with people. I always believed if I could sell one shirt, I could sell 1 million. That was sort of my mantra anyway, and I still believe in that. If I can make one sale, I can make 1 million sales. It's just the difference of numbers of sales. So as Shirt Punch continued on, it started to take a lot of interest, a lot of notice by big companies, and eventually we got approached by some big VCs out of Toronto, and I partnered with them, but not for money. Most people want to live in the Dragon's Den Shark Tank world of you give me X dollars, I give you X percentage, and But these guys really showed me that I wouldn't know what to do with money. And dare I say, most of the people here in this room wouldn't know what to do with the money. And we think we would. But we'd probably spend it on new computers and this and that. And, as you go on, you don't really spend it on what's important. And I also didn't want the responsibility of somebody else's money. I didn't want to have to answer to other people in that capacity. So I brought them on. They took some equity, but at the same time, I got their business expertise, and they opened a lot of doors for me. And very quickly, things started to change in a material way. First things first, we cut all our costs down by going direct to all the suppliers, by going direct to, we realized, without even knowing it, that we were actually bringing in shirts that were on par with what Walmart would order, Walmart Canada, for all of Walmart Canada. So it turns out we were a massive player in the industry, and we could go right to the suppliers. Little things like this became very, very important because there's not a lot of wiggle room on a $10 shirt. By the time you put it all together, ship it out, it's a big deal. And suddenly we were figuring out how to make 60-70% profit because we were able to just use our weight to push. That's very important, right? So as this continued on, really interesting things started to happen. We got a call one day from CBS, the TV station, and they said, we've got all these old brands, Twilight Zone and Cheers and Happy Days and 90210, and we're not doing anything with them. Do you guys want to do something with them? Because all the 30th anniversaries for all this stuff are coming up. And we said, okay. So we took them and we did all these designs and we submitted it back into them for approval. And we got a call from the third in command at CBS. And this guy says, hey, listen, what are you guys doing? Is this a joke? And I thought, oh my God, that's it, and we're never getting a brand again. And he said, here's the problem. What you guys have done, you guys have taken this so seriously. What you guys have done is so great. We, as CBS, can no longer put up our 30th anniversary stuff because now we look like garbage compared to what you guys are. Can we just buy all these designs back off you? And that kind of opened our mind to what we were doing, what we were achieving. So this continued. So we went from 1 shirt a day to 2 shirts a day to 3 shirts a day to 4 shirts a day. Now we had 4 different shirts, all based on different things, sci-fi, horror, video games, you name it. We were signing deals with everybody across the board. It was awesome. Things were really growing. But then one day I came home to a completely empty house. I thought, oh my God, I've been robbed. Turns out that was not the case. What had happened was my wife at the time decided that this was just going to be something that I was going to do for fun, and it was just going to be this little thing I had to get out of my system. And that day she informed me she did not want the fame and fortune that came along with this, and it was her or the company. And these are the true things that happen being an entrepreneur. So now I had to make a decision. I decided the company for a variety of reasons that maybe we'll get into over a beer one day. But I chose the company, and I went through a divorce while these companies were growing at an alarming rate. So now I was showing up to events, speaking, winning all these great awards, and completely crumbling on the inside and, really not many people to turn to. About a week after all this was happening, my best friend of 30 years approached me and said, I too am a little jealous of the success that has happened here. I would like a portion of your company. I said, I don't even understand what you're saying. That's not how life works, because if it was, I would just walk into Apple and say, how much of this company do I get? It's as arbitrary as that. So he decided, he had built the first version of Shirt Punch, forgetting that we had an ironclad contract. I was smart enough to get that. He decided to try and take me to court. It was thrown out of court. Long story short, 30 years of friendship gone. So now I found myself in this position where I had no friends, I had no relationship, I was going through a divorce, but I had this wonderful company. And so from the outside looking in, it just seemed like everything was amazing. It just seemed like, oh my God, this kid just scratched a winning lotto ticket and everything's coming up roses. But that's not the case. And I think it's pretty interesting to see that many entrepreneurs go through similar situations like this. Most relationships crumble because of finances, but you always think that's because of bad finances. When finances get really, really good, the relationships crumble as well. So it's a very weird situation to be in. So, you got to pick up your beans and keep on trucking. That's kind of the motto of life. You can curl up in a ball and die, or you can kick your way out and, figure things out. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to turn this opportunity, or this crisis, into an opportunity and see where I can go from there. So at that point, we had a company reach out to us from California. They're a company called Loot Crate, and you may have heard of them. They are a subscription box company for geeks and nerds. And at that time, they had about 4,000 subscribers. And man, if you've ever dealt with some people from California, they are an interesting group of people. They truly believe the air they breathe is better, and they're better because they're from California. Not all of them, but certainly a large portion of them. And that attitude really stuck with me. And I decided that out of spite, again, I was going to create a competing company to go against them instead of partnering with them. What they wanted was ridiculous. And thus, NerdBlock was born. So NerdBlock, what is NerdBlock? Well, NerdBlock was a subscription box that was essentially a geek and nerd themed box delivered to your door every month. Think of it as Comic-Con in a box. For 20 bucks a month, you'd get a t-shirt, you'd get 4 to 6 collectibles, sometimes you'd get a celebrity autograph, there was prizes, all sorts of stuff to do. And it was fun, it was just delivered to you. I think we get the concept of subscription boxes. There's one for everything, for dogs, for cats, for makeup, you name it. There's a subscription box for everything. But we were one of the first. Very quickly, things started to happen, and it became a very interesting rivalry between, kind of like a Coke and Pepsi wars between Loot Crate and Nerd Block. And we were just in this battle to see what we could do, to see where we could, really go with things. This was great. We were adding 2,000-3,000 subscribers per day. I mean, the money was insane. The growth, white hot growth. We got up to 250,000 subscribers per month. Canada's largest subscription box company. We just kept outgrowing all the spaces we were in. We ended up with, I think, 150 to 160 employees, 7 stores throughout different malls in Ontario. And we kept it all here in Whitby. This is where I was sort of born and raised, and I went to Pringle Creek and then Anderson and Durham College, and I wanted to keep it local, and that was my thing. And we hired a lot of local people. We found that there's a lot of great talent in Durham that leaves Durham every day and goes into Toronto. And wouldn't you know, they would love to just stay here instead. So we ended up getting a lot of really great people, and there were opportunities, much like my Iron Man story. There were opportunities that happened along my journey. Target went under. Well, that sucked, but I was able to get their whole buying team. And this was a great buying team that had been vetted and brought in from all over Canada, and just a solid group of people. We brought the whole team on. I mean, that was a pretty cool thing to have these seasoned advanced buyers with these skill sets that we never thought we could achieve. Instead of getting into Facebook advertising, we just got one of their executives and hired him on and brought him in. And this guy knew how to carve a path and get to where we need to go, and just amazing things like that. And these are the things that started to happen. And as this went along, we started to expand our offering. First it was 1 subscription box, and it was 2, and it was different genres, a horror-themed box, a video game-themed box, one for kids, you name it. And this continued on. And then the partnerships started. Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, you name it. And we're going to these places, and we're working with these celebrities, and it was just the coolest thing ever. And it was such an amazing feeling to really be doing what you truly love to do. And for me, that was just sales. That was just selling things. I didn't care what it was. It just so happened I liked what it was. Now, they do say if you love what you do, you'll never work a day. As it turns out, if you love what you do, you'll end up hating it, because eventually I really stopped loving toys and pop culture, and I started meeting all these guys that were my heroes, just people that I just envied. Unfortunately, we just lost Stan Lee, right? Big, huge guy, we lost him. Everybody loves Stan Lee. I have a different perspective on that. I worked with Stan. I filmed a pilot for a TV show with him. I did several pieces of merchandise with him directly, not just his team, with him directly. So the thing is, I'll keep my opinions of him to myself, but the truth is, it's interesting how your heroes and the people that you really love are positioned in a certain way, very, very, their PR teams crafted in a very specific way. But to meet them is to lose out on this. So things started to get really difficult in the subscription box space. Interestingly enough, competition started to flood in. Anyone could do it. And so there's a company out there called Funko. I'm not sure if people are familiar with Funko. They make these little tiny toys. You see them everywhere. If I showed you one, you would know exactly what it is. They are the largest thing in the toy company, in the toy space right now. They're right behind Hasbro and Mattel. There was a point where you had to have one of their products in your box to make it something that people would really buy. And then all of a sudden one day we get a call from them, and they say, hey, listen, we're, great news. We're launching our own subscription box. I said, how the hell is that great news for me? Like, why would you? I don't think you know me at all. Like, this is not great news. And they said, oh, by the way, we also can't sell our product to you anymore. So, you can imagine my world's just crumbling around me. This is like the linchpin item. But this is how being an entrepreneur is. This is what it is like. Every day every hour of every day might as well be 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, because you're dealing with just such chaotic stuff all the time. One phone call can upset your whole world, can turn everything upside down in an instant. There's typically nothing you can do about it, and you just got to learn to work the issue, And I think that anybody in here who is currently on the path to being an entrepreneur, is an entrepreneur, has been and has exited, can really tell you that is what it, like honestly, business sucks. It really sucks, and it's really, sometimes you just don't want to get up and deal with it. Like it's terrible. And I talk to these, I'm fortunate to be connected with these, these CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and they all agree it sucks. And you look at them, and they're on private jets, and they're living in mansions, and they got millions of dollars, and it still sucks because the problems never change. They only get bigger, and all of a sudden now, one wrong move and 100 people are out of work, or you're losing millions of dollars for people. The stakes only get higher. The reward never gets that much sweeter. And that's the truth. And that's the life you reserve yourself to when being an entrepreneur. But you get to write your own ticket. That's the best part. You get to write your own ticket, to do your own thing, to be your own boss, to sign your own paychecks, all the things that you dream about. And believe me, you'll understand when you get there one day that, in fact, money means nothing, and it is totally useless when you have all of it in the world. But when you don't, it's the only thing you're driving towards. And it's an interesting shift that eventually happens. So we're dealing with all these problems. We're launching subscription boxes. We're hiring people. We're moving into a 200,000 square foot building here in Whitby. All these big things. And now we have to make the decision. Do we stay where we are? Do we break this glass ceiling and grow? And it's very easy to go from 1 client to 2 clients, from 100 clients to 200 clients. But to go from 100,000 clients to 200,000 clients, it's not so easy. So at a certain point, you just can't do it anymore without a lot of help. You have to get a financial raise. You have to merge with a company. You have to have something monumental happen, because having 250,000 subscribers and adding 10,000 more does nothing. I needed to add 100,000 more. And that's the type of growth that I was chasing. I wouldn't recommend that for everybody, but those problems are going to be out there. You do X number of sales in 1 month. I remember hitting these milestones of $1 million in sales per month. You'd hit the 31st of the month. Wow, we did $1 million in sales. But the next day, the clock resets itself. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. Now you got to hit that again this month. And this never ends. And this is, you're waking up at 4 in the morning. You're emailing yourself 100 different things. You get into work. You're dead tired. Doesn't matter. That's the life. That's what you guys are signing up for. It's when you're the CEO of a company, you really have to be the first to march out into the battlefield and get riddled with bullets. And you got to keep smiling. You got to go back. You're bleeding out. You got to get up the next day and do it all again. Because if you don't, you can't expect your team to sort of follow you. And you really are setting the example. You got to be the first in. You got to be the last out. You got to keep the waters calm even when it's choppy on your end. And these are the hard lessons that you and you can read all the books you want. You can Wealthy Barber and 4-Minute Work Week. And I've never read a business book in my life. It's just not my style. But you can. I kind of believe that it's like, following different diets. All these different, people always follow these different diets and never really achieves anything. I kind of feel like reading business books is a little bit like that. But I honestly think that, if you just work hard, it's hard work and dedication always yields results. That's what it comes down to in the end. That can be said about anything. And so that's really where we focused. And we continued to grow. Things went really, really great. But, I had business partners. And business partners, it's much like a relationship. Where you start in a relationship, all the things that are cute at the beginning are not so cute a year and a half, 2 years in, right? Maybe they're a little annoying. And business partners are no different. And so we had this decision to make. Do we sell? Do we merge with another company? Do we keep trying to grow? What do we do? And we were getting approached all the time. I mean, you got to understand that we were sending out 250,000 boxes a month, which meant, if you had a new product launch, if you were a company like Hasbro or Lego or, Funko or Mattel, you could put your products in our box. So buying us was great because now you're guaranteeing these products get into people's hands. If you launch a new line of action figures, you can put them in the box, and it starts these collections with people. I mean, it was something unheard of. These companies are like, wait a minute, it's Toys R Us to your door? Like, this is amazing. So I was under the impression, let's sell. My business partner decided otherwise. And so I said, you know what, no problem. I'm going to offer you my shares, which he gladly accepted. So at this point now, it was really weird because I was kind of removed from the company. I was still the face, I was still the name of the company, but I actually had no control anymore. And I thought this was great because I had exited and But as it turns out, the weird thing about doing that is it's kind of like if you have kids and then you give them to someone else to raise, but you have to go over and babysit under new rules. And you're like, this is weird. Like I wouldn't let them eat chocolate at 10 at night, but you will. So it's kind of like that. And I found myself in this weird situation. So these guys, they ran for a raise. And in doing so, they expanded their offerings. They signed all these really big lucrative deals with the US Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, which was crazy because we were a Canadian company signing exclusive subscription box deals with all these like super pro-American companies. We signed all these college basketball and football teams, and we're doing subscription boxes for them. We were signing Coca-Cola and Guinness Beer and all these companies to do these boxes for them. And the reason they were doing this, as I found out, was because they had a raise. It was right about there. And they needed to show the people giving them the raise how they could expand and the different verticals they can go in. Toys are fine, but where else can you go? So unfortunately, in the 11th hour, the raise didn't happen. And when that happened, they realized that their arms were really stretched out. They had taken on way too much. And this happens all the time, right? You go towards something, you make all the appropriate changes to get there, and then you get there, and it's just not what you thought, and it doesn't happen. So it was a lot of scrambling, a lot of weird stuff. The board of directors voted to put the companies into receivership, which basically is a way of pausing all the bills you have to pay, and you've got all this time to work it out. Sears went through it, Toys R Us went through it. You can read a lot about that. I volunteered to step up and to really shepherd this. There's a lot of chaos that goes on when that happens. So the board of directors voted me in. I kind of came back on board, and I carried this company through receivership. And what that meant was a bunch of things. First, I sold both the companies. NerdBlock was sold to a company in San Francisco. These guys print all the Harry Potter books. Big company. I won't get into the details, but it was a great sale. It was a great transaction. A lot of great things happened. But that meant 160 people here in Whitby no longer had jobs. So that was problem number one. Problem number two is that there were customers who were still owed boxes. And when everything stopped, they weren't getting their boxes. So now you had this angry mob of people. So, okay, that's fine. The third problem was that my business partners decided, well, to hell with you, 5 years, 6 years of working together, but we think that what you're doing is wrong, and we want to keep going, even though we can't keep going. And it turned into this thing. So all of a sudden, I'm left alone with a company that I don't own anymore, but now I'm in charge of this dramatic process. That was tough. It was really tough. And the worst part, I would say, is the messages that got out there, right? A lot of the messaging that got out there was misinformed, and I was the face of the company, especially in Durham region. So people are hearing, Russ sold the company, Russ had to fire everybody. It wasn't me. But you know what? It's okay. It doesn't matter. This is how life goes. People take 2% of what they know. They fill in the 98% with what they think, what they hear. They pick bits and pieces from all these different stories they hear. Most of the time, those are from people who don't know the story at all. And all of a sudden, they've got this misinformation. That I was fine with. I didn't care about that. What I was really excited about, and it took a year. It's been a difficult year to get through, but I was able to rehome all 160 employees. That was really important. 160 people I was able to put back into different jobs, varying from, from minimum wage right up through to six-figure salaries. And that was great. So we rehomed everybody. I mean, there were a few people that found their own stuff and whatnot, but that was really cool. We also made sure all the employees were taken care of. Anytime something like that happens, there's always going to be a few employees that either didn't get a last paycheck, whatever it is. So I made sure that happened. When we sold the new companies, that was its own process. I'd never sold a company before. I had sold shares. I had sold, my portions, but I never actually sold a company. So that was really cool to sell both of the companies, Shirt Punch and NerdBlock. And Shirt Punch is still here in Toronto. NerdBlock, of course, in San Francisco. But one thing that was also really important was to make sure that the guys who bought the companies reimbursed all the customers and made sure everything went well again. And we were able to achieve all this. So it was like its own mountain that we climbed at the end. And definitely not the way I would have loved for everything to go down at the end. But you know what? Things happen in business, and not every story is a Cinderella story. And things like receiverships and bankruptcies and all these different things are an important part of business, right? They are a major part of it. And you may or you may not go through it in different ways. But that's what business is. Business is risk. It's real risk. And you're risking it every day. And you're constantly in this You've got to have all the answers to all your employees. You've got to know what's next. You're in the middle of an ocean. You don't know which direction to go, but you can't tell your team that. So you just have to sail, and hopefully you hit land. But if you don't, it's like going to the casino. If you win, you're a hero. If you lose, you're an idiot. And that's kind of what being a CEO is. If you do the right things, you're the hero. If not, they all look at you like, what were you thinking? Well, I was thinking the same thing you were thinking. I was thinking I didn't know which way to go forward, but I had to make an educated guess based on what I've done. So for me, it's actually been a really great journey because everything in the past here has given me, songwriting's a little left field. I haven't used that again. But everything else has been great, from starting companies to launching them to brand management, to growing a business, to dealing with insolvency, to selling companies. And what's interesting is that it's really paved the way for what's next. Most people don't ask what's next, but there's not a single person in this room who isn't going to have a next. Your businesses are going to you're either going to wind them down, you're going to sell them, you're going to merge them, something's going to happen. But we all have this vision of, I'm going to start a company, I'm going to sell it for millions, and then I'm going to retire. That never happens, and guys like Frank are a testament to that, where they've done amazing things, but they keep going because it's just in you. And if that's not in you, you're not really an entrepreneur. You're just kind of someone who wants to be that, because you never stop. An entrepreneur never, ever stops, and you get plugged into different things. And that's what's interesting. So all of a sudden I emerged from this world thinking, like, what is the world going to think of me now? Turns out I've got a lot of skills that I didn't really put together. So of course, Toys R Us goes bankrupt, and I get a call from them right away. They want me to really lead quite a bit of the charge here, which was weird because I love Toys R Us. I'm glad it's still open in Canada. I worked there as a kid, But that was an interesting thing, to deal with billions of dollars in excess inventory, and hundreds of, or I guess tens of thousands of employees, something like 30,000 employees, and just really the messaging. And so that consumes a lot of my time right now. And it's weird, right? Because it definitely opens up interesting opportunities for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that got hurt in the Toys R Us bankruptcy. There's a lot of people that are making a lot of money in the Toys R Us bankruptcy. I mean, I've got, $500 million worth of Lego I can sell to you guys right now if you want it. And that's very lucrative if you've got the money, right? So, especially with Christmas coming. And now they're relaunching it, and I'm part of that team. But it's interesting how going through what I went through in my companies, people said, you know what? You did the right thing, Russ. You showed up every day. You answered every phone call. You got the work done. You worked with the legal teams. You worked with the lawyers. You did all this stuff for a year without getting any payment, just because it was the right thing to do. And that goes a long way. We love that. So word starts getting around that, like, hey, this is a stand-up guy. This is a guy who can, do these things. So that's where I'm at now. So I'm working with Toys R Us. Yarn Crush is another company. It's a subscription box company that actually one of my employees, his wife started it after working for us for a holiday season. It's a knitting subscription box, and I don't know anything about knitting, but she's done a great job. And so she's kind of getting approached by different buyers, and she asked me to step in. So I've stepped in, I've put the package together, and we're now selling it. And we're in talks with Michaels and Fabricland and all these great companies, and selling it for like a 10 times multiple, because we're getting people that are chasing this dream of this subscription box success, especially through retail. So it's just interesting how these things open up. And the other one I'll tell you about here is Drinks and Dragons. This is one of my really cool things. So through everything that goes on here in Durham, all these talks that I come out to, I get to talk with all these interesting people. And a couple of years ago, I met this really cool kid who had this vision to do kind of like a Snakes and Lattes, if you've seen that in Toronto. It's a cafe where you go in and you get your coffee and you play board games, and and you have a lot of fun. It's an experiential thing. So he said, Russ, how do we do this? How do we launch this? He's got everything lined up. He's got the money. He's got the he knows it. He's been working at a cafe in Toronto for a year to prepare to manage this place. And so I said, great. So as I started getting into this with him, I realized that, hey, this kid's really got it. He's got the ability to kick down brick walls, and that's what a CEO does. They just keep, every time you hit a hurdle where somebody else stopped, you keep going forward. That's what running a business is. And so I'm really excited to say that Not only is Drinks and Dragons going to open here in Whitby, just down the street in about a month from now, we've got about 7 other locations that we're opening soon, and we're actually working with Deepak Chopra, the former CEO of Canada Post. He's getting involved in this, and he's bringing to the table a gentleman named Ellis, who is the current CEO of Cineplex Odeon. And so we already have an exit plan through Cineplex and Famous Players, because of course, at the movie theaters, they want you to be able to go there and spend an entire day just there and not even have to see a movie. So they're trying to bring in all these different experiential things, and this hits the ticket. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go through. But what's really, we're good? So let me run through this, guys, because well, we're getting there. So disclaimer: do not be a wantrepreneur. Right? A wantrepreneur wants to be a CEO. They want success, financial freedom, the life they perceive a CEO lives. But they don't want the risks, sacrifice, or financial investment. Risk is real. Risk is very real. And it comes with everything you do, both financially and your reputation and all these different things. Risk plus your money equals being an entrepreneur. That's how it goes. This isn't the Dragon's Den world. For some people, like Emma Harris, who you may have heard speak a little while ago in Healthy Pets, she did great on Dragon's Den because there's always a few success stories there. But for the most part, nobody's going to just give you money for an idea. You've got to invest your own money. You've got to show the concept works. Sales tips, sort of. These may apply to you, they may not. Some of these are obvious, some of these are not. But hopefully this helps you in some capacity grow what you're doing. Take everything with a grain of salt. It may work for you, it may not. Sales are different. I sold products. You may sell a service. Other people may sell, whatever it is. Understand what you're selling. Coke sells happiness, Apple sells cool. That's very important. I think we all know Coke and Apple, they sell happiness and cool. But most people don't think of it that way. With Nerd Block, at first I always thought I was selling you toys and games and great value. But the truth is, what I was selling you was excitement. I was selling you those 3 seconds of excitement from when you received the box, in which it was a mystery, and you opened it, and it was that moment where you just saw 10 different things in the box and your eyes couldn't focus on one from the other. That was what I was selling you, that bit of mystery and excitement. So it was understanding what I was selling that actually let me get to the next point. Listen to the client. Don't tell them what they want. Listen to them. We called Star Wars one day thinking that, hey, we've got this great deal. We've got this really cool concept for a subscription box. And they chewed us up. They said, yeah, you and everybody else have the same idea. Here's what we want. So we stopped and we listened to them. And wouldn't you know, we signed the deal with them. Little kid from Whitby signing a deal with Lucasfilm. That was very important because we were the first to ever do that with this company. And here I am in California at their offices, all these movie props everywhere and dealing with, like big, Kathleen Kennedy and big people. But it was all because we listened to them. Oftentimes people will call and say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. Just ask them what they want and then lead from there. Use the client as a focus group. If every client you talk to says they want it to be read, lead with it being read. Understand what they want. Don't try and push them down a road. Really focus on what it is that all the repetition that they're saying over and over and over. That's what your product needs to be. If your product is software as a service and everyone keeps saying, why isn't there an email button on the main page? Put the damn button on the main page. That's what they want. Don't even joke around. Just do it and then move forward with it. It's just every little bit helps, right? Sales is all about tightening little screws here and there, a little to the left, a little to the right, and you'll get there. Evolve your offerings. Most people don't know that Netflix started as a DVD mail service. Some of you remember that. You would say, hey, I really want to watch, Cool Runnings. That's my jam. And they would send it to you in the mail, and you would watch it 100 times. And then you would mail it back to them, and they would send you the next one on their list. Then they evolved to streaming, which is kind of what we know now. But again, they've had to evolve to exclusive. So think about how you view Netflix. Do you really watch a lot of old shows, or are you more waiting around for all their Netflix exclusives? Most of us just watch the exclusives. That's what they've evolved to. They understand their product. And you know who didn't evolve was Blockbuster. And we all know the story that Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix and they didn't, and now they're gone. And you can look around at other companies that are evolving right now, things like EB Games and GameStop in the States. They purchased a company called ThinkGeek. Why? Because everybody's downloading video games from their systems now. No one needs to go to a store. You go into an EB Games, and it's all toys. And it's all based on this company, ThinkGeek. And they're going to rebrand themselves ThinkGeek stores. That's coming very, very soon. But they have to evolve, otherwise they are Blockbuster. Business don'ts. These are things I just don't do. Maybe you do. Maybe it works for you. Great, but not for me. So I'll take you through them. Stop jumping on fads. Not everything needs to be pumpkin spice. It's okay to go there for a little bit. But guys, fads are fads and they burn out quick. Stick with what you know. Stick with what is working. Fads come and go, but if you've got something solid, stick with it. Push it. Sell it. Evolve it. Evolving to pumpkin spice is not an evolution. It's a sidestep. Stop answering questions you don't know. They recognize bullshit. Everybody does. We recognize when you're just talking. Especially most of the time, clients ask you questions that they already know the answers to. So, you're not getting anything over on them. But I'll tell you something. If a client asks you something you don't know and you just say, hey, look, I gotta think about that and come back to you, it gives you time to talk to them again. It sets up that next call. It's important. Stop writing poorly written emails. Grammar's your friend. Oh my God, the amount of notes. I get it. Guys, I get it. There are some people that can talk, but they can't translate that to typing on the computer. I get that. Have someone else write your emails. Get people to ghostwrite it. Nothing turns me off more than a poorly written email. It's just like you question the entire company that is emailing you. Stop making it harder than it has to be. I put self-explanatory because I actually thought I'd be making it harder than it had to be if I explained it. So I think we get that. Just sell your products. You don't have to jump through all these hoops. It's not, my business 10 commandments. This is the last slide. So here's the deal. This is what I've learned over, hundreds of $1 million in sales, launching companies, you name it, everything. Again, this may be great for you guys. Maybe it's not. But, I think it's useful. Perfect the product experience or business model before expanding. If your experience isn't perfect, don't keep expanding. Get it perfect, then expand from there. That is very, very important. People want to run before they walk, before they crawl. You got to do it the other way. Do not chase growth. You chase growth, you'll fall over. Growth happens, and it's okay to push yourself, but it's not the be-all, end-all. It's not the only thing that matters. Whether you do 100 million in sales or 10 million in sales, it's okay. It's still something to be really, really proud of. Focus on what matters the most. The sales you're making, the profit margins, all those little things are more important than that next sale. That next sale will happen, but you don't have to chase it. Service what you've done. Do not allow outsiders to dictate how you run your business. Everybody gets this. People will be telling you what you need to do, how you need to do it, and 90% of the time, these people are not entrepreneurs themselves. Everybody's got an opinion. The only one that really matters is yours. And listen to all the opinions. And if you hear repeated things over and over and over, it's like listening to a client. It's like a focus group. Then change it. But there's always going to be people in your ear, especially when you start to become successful or they perceive you as being successful. Only do business with people who want to do business with you. I hate doing business with people that I have to force into it. To hell with that. If you don't want to do business with me, I don't want to do business with you. There's a lot of people out there, and none of us need to work in situations we don't want to work in. If someone wants to do business with you, it's going to be a great relationship. If you have to force them into it, there are going to be problems the whole way through, and you don't need that. That's a headache you just don't need. 4.5, turn off your cell phone. No, I'm just joking. Number 5, don't be afraid to say no. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from a deal, even if you think that, oh my God, this is a big deal, I really need a big deal, it's $500,000, and if it's not a good deal, walk away. Just walk away. Say no. Say no more than you say yes. It's like playing poker. You fold more than you go in. That's just the way this goes. A company is a team, not a family. Treat it as such. Reed Hastings, CEO of Netflix, famous for saying this. You may think your company is a family. That's probably not going to serve you well once you start getting 15, 20 employees deep. When it's only 3, 4 people, fine. But you got to treat them as a team, because a team, much like a sports team, you may have a really star athlete and you may still trade them out for even better. That happens. So you may have someone on your team who's great, but you may find someone who's just legendary, and you got to make a switch. And I know these people have been with you forever, and whatever. You got to, guys, it's a team. It's not a family. You got to treat it as such. Business has no emotions. Always ask the client what they're looking for and answer from there. We went through this. Take time before responding to important issues. It's okay to wait 12 hours to respond to a big important email, unless it's like super timely, get it to me by end of day. But take time, think about it, digest it, work the issue, and then go back. Sometimes if you could sleep on a big issue, trust me, you'll wake up way, way better. Stop judging squirrels by their ability to swim. Okay, what this means. what this means. We hired somebody in our sales team, and then we turned around and made them sell a bunch of excess inventory. They were there to buy, but we made them sell, and we judged them on that, and that was wrong of us because, you know what? Squirrels gather nuts, and they climb trees, and they kind of run out in front of your car, and then you think you're going to hit them, and they turn and run away. That's all they do. They have 3 things they do. But if you're judging them on their ability to swim, you're going to be severely disappointed. I don't even know if they swim. I should have looked up this. Maybe they might be incredible swimmers. Maybe this is a stupid point. Look, do not retreat. Reload. This is my favorite point on all of this. Do not retreat. Reload. You will get knocked down. You will get knocked down many, many times. Reload your gun, get back up, and take another shot. That's the beauty of the American dream. You can screw up as much as you want today. You can go to bed, and you can do it all again tomorrow, because that's the world we live in. So, you know, don't be afraid to try those things. So those are my 10 business commandments that I have learned over a period of time. They work for me. Maybe they work for you. I don't know. But let's get to you guys. Questions? Thank you very much. So do we have any questions in the audience? I'm seeing no hands up. This might be an easy one for okay, at the back.
How old are you?
I'm 37. Am I still a happy person? That's kind of a loaded question. I'm much happier on a Friday afternoon. But you know, here's the thing. Yeah, I love what I do. I enjoy it. I'm just genuinely a happy person in life. I've been through ups and downs, some experiences, but you know what? It's interesting, right? Like business can make you very unhappy. And you know, but we've all got to do it. Whether you hate the job you work for and the people you work for, or you hate your own company, I think it's kind of part of the game just to not always love having to get up and go in. I honestly believe that the worst day at home is still better than the best day at work, right? So like I'd rather be at home, but as it turns out, being at home is also equally boring. You know, as Frank said, my dog got very sick this year, and I took about 7-8 months off to really nurse her back to health. It was a big ordeal, and she's great. I'm glad to say she's doing really fine now. But sitting on a bed, watching, you know, flipping between Unsolved Mysteries and Dr. Phil for like 4 months, 5 months, that's rough. So being at home is not great either. So I'm definitely still happy, but you know, you've got days. There's not bad days.
I'm Natalie from the Whitby Chamber of Commerce.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you in person. So I wanted to thank you because quite often presentations are all the rah, rah, rah. When I started at the Chamber, I heard all about this guy in Whitby and what he was doing here. And I reached out, in fact, stalked you on LinkedIn and was surprised to hear back from you. And as we were setting something up, all of this was happening to you. And you had the courage to tell a complete stranger who pretty much stalked you on LinkedIn, here's what's going on with my life. I think I need to pause on this thing that we're pulling together. Here's why. You didn't know me from Adam. You didn't owe me the explanation. You could have just said busy, can't. You could have made up something else. I wanted to say, from a leadership perspective, whether you're leading 1, 2, yourself, your family, or a team of hundreds, that's authenticity. That's courage. And to stand up here a year later and tell us this story, and you know, courage, and thank you to Frank and his team to have brought you. Like, you guys don't realize how courageous it is to stand up and say not just how great I built it, but also the things in the pitfalls. So I just wanted to say thank you because
Thank you. I really appreciate
that was really authentic to get that
Thank you
email
so
from
much.
you.
I really appreciate that, and you know, maybe it's just me. I'm just a very open person. I'm very authentic in the way I speak, and it's easier just to sort of tell the truth, and you don't have to worry about these stories, you know. But here's the thing: business is not all great all the time. Even when it is great, it's not all great. I mean, you look at a company like you know, I just read Nintendo could lose $250 million a year and still be in business until 2060. That's how much money these guys have, and they have bad days. They have terrible days. They have things that don't go right and launch huge products that are complete failures. It doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. Business sucks. It really sucks, but it's also equally awesome and fun. And you gotta ride that line between, you know, it's like getting drunk. Like, you kind of get drunk a little, and you're like, this is great, but then you get too drunk, and it really sucks. But then you gotta, it's kind of this weird, you know, and you gotta find that middle ground. for me, what I believe is that when things are going right, you don't have any problems in your life, those are the good old days. Those are the days you look back on and reflect as being like, oh, that period of time in my life was awesome. So I really try and focus on it. I really try and understand when I'm in the good old days and just ride it out. And you know, the sun's gonna rise tomorrow. No matter what you guys are going through, the sun's gonna rise. I guarantee you, nothing you're going through is as bad as it may seem. And what are you going to do? Again, you're going to curl up in a ball, or you're going to kick your way out of it. I mean, I think a true entrepreneur figures out a way around these things, and I think it's important to get this message out there because everyone has these visions of I'm going to start a company and it's going to go viral and I'm going to be a millionaire. And, you know, that does happen to a few people, but is it going to happen to you? Are you going to win the lottery? I would probably say no to both. So, you know, it's kind of the way it goes. I think you guys could be very, very successful, but there is a journey, and you got to take the good with the bad. But thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate that. Gentleman at the very back.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for sharing your story. My name is Henry Wilson. I'm an entrepreneur, community advocate, and a founder for a not-for-profit, the Wilson Project Employment and Training Center. And I know with the work that I do community-wise, it takes a toll, and my outlet is dancing. What's your way of handling the stress, the challenges of being an entrepreneur? Great question.
That's a great question, you know, and so I really wish I had an outlet like dancing. I wish I had something that I was like really, really into. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Yeah, right. Here's the thing. For me, you know, when I've got downtime, I focus on what I love to do. And as sad as it sounds, I really love watching television, and I especially love the commercials because these are the stupidest written, like 60-second little shows. And I try and, I know it sounds really dumb, but I really do. I watch these commercials and I'll pause it and I'll say to my wife, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Let's rewind and analyze this commercial. Like, why would these people be doing this? You know what I mean? Like, who gives a shit about going to Tim Hortons and like with their grandma and she's bringing you a little Stegosaurus toy and you're all excited? Like, have you seen this commercial? It's like, what is this? Like, this never happened. So I'm always trying to like have fun and think of like the pitch meetings, and I know it sounds like a weird thing to do, but I love doing it. I love thinking of like somebody went into, one of my favorite movies is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and you know, somewhere along the way, someone walked into an office and said, I got these two stoners, and they're gonna flunk school, and if they do, they won't make music that brings peace to the whole world, so guess what? Time-traveling phone booth, and they go through time collecting historical figures to pass it, and somebody else said, holy shit, let's do it! This is it. I love thinking of these things. So that's what I do. I consume media nonstop. And that's what I do. But I really need a hobby. Maybe I need to take you up on dancing. Maybe I can show you some moves, because I think I'm wasting my time.
I agree with you on the commercials. Sometimes I do the same thing. I'm like, did this agency get fired?
Right.
That's all that's going through my head. Do you think you have another, I know you're consulting now, another business in you? Like, I know, realize you didn't bring a crystal ball today, but do you think you would build another business, be the CEO, have a bunch of employees?
Do I think I would build another business? You know, there was a time when I said no. It was really nice to be out of it. And I even applied for like regular jobs at one point, just thinking, maybe, no. I actually got a bunch of callbacks, and I was like, you know what, no. When you're a CEO, when you're an entrepreneur, you're broken. You can't work for other people anymore. Just the puzzle pieces don't go together that way. So you've got to keep doing your own thing. You got to get it. You know, it's like a drug, but one that you just can't get over, and you got to keep going back for more. You know, you got to feed the beast. So. Yeah, I think I'll definitely have another company, and I've got a few ideas. You know, the interesting thing is as you go through different industries, you also start to spot all the areas where there are major opportunities. And so, yeah, I think I will go back at one point, and I will go back and try it again. But right now, I'm really enjoying consulting. I'm really enjoying taking people's companies to market and selling them, and sort of launching, like partnering with companies, and just being this guy that can pass on my knowledge and my info to other people and help them out. And it's actually a really nice thing to see other people succeed, but I don't have to deal with all the phone calls and all the employees and I know you specifically get what I'm saying, is you've got a whole plethora of employees, and we'll see. I'm 37 years old. I'm still young. I still got a lot in me to go, and so we'll see where it ends up. But I think so. I think you'll see me out there again.
Yeah, I find what you said today very inspiring. And one thing stuck in my mind is we're all going through it as fairly new entrepreneurs. Those middle of the night, 2 a.m., you wake up saying, what the hell am I doing? What am I into? Can I get out of this, or do I keep going? Do you still go through that now? Even after all you've been through?
So, so my thing for years, I would wake up between 3 and 4 in the morning, and I would send myself 15, 20 emails, just one little line, like remember to do this, remember to do that. And then I'd come into work the next morning, and that would make my list of things I need to do. And it was more out of like panic, like, oh my God, I'm gonna forget this. But I still do it now. I wake up and I think, oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Oh no, I don't. Like it's not my problem anymore. I don't think. I guess I do my best thinking in the middle of the night when I wake up. Like maybe that's just me. I don't know. I think a lot of people are like that. My dog always needs to go out at that time and stuff. So it's kind of this thing. But I mean, it happened last night. Like I literally walked through this presentation 10 times over before I got here. It's just kind of my style. I don't have any notes. I don't really know what I'm going to say until I get into it. But I kind of follow this path. So by the time I'm doing this now, I've done it already a bunch of times. And so I was, again, firing myself off emails. Remember to say this, remember to say that. And I've probably not remembered any of those, but that sort of theory works for me in that way of being. And I think if you're like that, I think it's a totally great way to be. And I think, don't try and change direction for no reason. I mean, if that's your style, I got to 100 million with it, maybe you can do it.
That's when I'm most creative, actually.
I think so too. Personally speaking, I do my best work between like 2 in the morning and noon. The rest of the day, I'm a bit of a write-off. I always said I like to launch missiles in the morning, and they kind of all fall back in the afternoon. And I think most people running a company do that. That's sort of the style.
Thank you.
At the back again.
On my worst day, I say wait 10 minutes. What model do you use on your worst day?
On my worst day, man, I don't even know. I thought going through the insolvency of a company that I had founded would have been my worst day, and then my dog got really sick, and that was the only thing that mattered. And and it's not that you can't just keep chalking up life to saying oh, it could always be worse, it could always be worse, because I really think that whatever we're going through in our own lives is the worst thing for us, even though other people are going through worse stuff. But for me, I just know this, it's really as simple as, look, first of all, nobody cares about me as much as I care about myself, right? So whatever I'm going through, and I think all these people are impacted by it and affected and thinking about it, they're not. No one's thinking about me the way I'm thinking about me. No one's thinking about any of you guys the way you're thinking about. You guys are the stars of your own show, right? And every scene, you're the star of it. But that's not the same for everybody else. So if I'm having a bad day, you guys don't care. You guys really don't care that my dog wasn't doing well in this, because you've got your own stuff going on. And so I just, anytime I'm having a bad day, I just try and focus on, if I was having a bad day today, what's today, Wednesday? Is today Wednesday? Today's Wednesday. I would say to myself, okay, I'm gonna order pizza tonight, that'll be good. And Survivor's on, that's good. And, my wife is gonna force me to watch Teen Mom, because she loves that show, so, which is a great show to pause and yell at the screen again, because these guys are really stupid. So I just kind of figure out what am I going to do today that I like? I just bought me a video game, I'm going to play that. That's what I do. I just focus on what it is between now and when I go to bed that I'm going to enjoy and the things I can be happy about. Because I don't have to think about tomorrow or the next day. They're going to bring their own set of problems, or great things are going to happen. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow's tomorrow. And I just really focus on what is going to get me out of this funk today. And sometimes I'll just say to hell with it. I'm pissed off, I'm in a bad mood, that's the way I'm going to be today, and I'm just going to slam every door and stomp all around my house and throw things around and just really have a temper tantrum. And why not? I'm allowed to do that too. So just, I get it out of my system. I don't go exercise or any of that stuff. I think we can tell. I got a dad bod. I know who I am.
I have a question for you, Russ. Actually, I got a comment too. I'm surprised actually that you have cable based on this conversation. I would have never guessed it.
I'll never cut the cord.
All of the relationships you've built from the beginning all the way through partnerships and the alliances with the different organizations. Tell me about the importance of building a brand and the process you go through building that brand? And I'm not talking about the creative aspect.
Sure.
I'm talking about actually building the brand, building those values, and living them.
So for me, a brand is everything, right? The thing about a brand is that if I can make you emotionally connect with it, it doesn't matter what I charge, it doesn't matter what it is, nothing matters, because all that matters is you're gonna feel a lot better at night when you put your head on your pillow and you've got my product, because you've emotionally connected with it for one reason or another. And we all emotionally connect with different things, be it a service, be it a product, be it a brand, you know, like a pop culture brand or a TV show, whatever. The point is, when I create a brand, I want something that's going to resonate in the hearts of people. And I think it's the most important thing in the world. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you Pat, I'll give you a real example. I've got a really good friend of mine who's a tiler, and he's one of Oshawa's best. He goes around, tiles places, you know, he does great things, but it's all under his own name. And what I've shown him and what he's now making the connection of is, I can't tile forever. And one day when I'm not tiling anymore, people can't buy me. So if I create a brand and disassociate myself and people start hiring the brand instead of me, now I have something to sell. Now I have a brand and a goodwill and an exit strategy. Otherwise, I'm just going to exit and all my clients are going to go to other people. So a brand is really important because it gives you something to sell. It gives you something to hold up and say, this is what you're buying. And there may be other things people are buying, you know, logistic chains and this and that and the other thing, but it's always a brand. It always comes down to a very strong brand. And your brand can withhold anything. It can take all the bullets for you. It can, you know, even when things go wrong, if it's a brand that people really love and connect with, they'll give you a free pass. They'll let you, you know, Apple can screw up, and it's Apple. We all love Apple. Who cares, right? But it's not easy. And as Pat and other people here can attest, creating a brand is very difficult, and it takes time, and it's so much more than I came up with a name and I drew a logo and now I've got a brand. That is not a brand. That is no more a brand than I put on a pilot's uniform and say I can fly a plane. Like, it's not, you know. So a brand is so much more than that. It takes time. It's like planting a seed, and it grows, and you nurture it, and you keep the pests away and the bugs away and all these, you know. And over time, it blossoms into something beautiful, and then it starts to really spread, and before you know it, it's great. So Nerd Block started as Nerd Block, and we really nurtured it, and then we launched Horror Block, and Arcade Block, and Nerd Block Junior, and all these iterations of it, but the brand stood the test of time, and people would recognize it. People would recognize me. Oh, you're the Nerd Block guy. Instead of saying you're Russ, it was you're the Nerd Block guy, because the brand stood out. So if you've got a brand, or you're looking to create a brand, I think it's, my opinion, is the most important thing that you can do. It's the one thing at the end of the day that people are going to approach you to buy.
So when creating a brand, what do you think is better? Selling like your own main product or someone else's products?
I'm always leery of selling someone else's products, just because I've been in a situation where when it gets popular enough, they come in and they say, well, you've really grown our brand, and now we're going to go and sell it. So I don't, you know, I like selling my own products. One of the challenges we had with Nerd Block at the beginning was that when you opened it, it was all other people's products inside. You had something from Mattel and Lego and Hasbro and, you know, so on and so forth. And so people are pulling out these saying, oh, I love Lego, but they weren't saying, oh, I love Nerd Block. So the switch we had to make was signing licensing and product deals with all these vendors and making our own products. So getting out there and being able to make our own, you know, Freddy Krueger collectibles. So they were like, oh, this is a Nerd Block, whatever. That became very important. First of all, you could only get it through us, so it allowed us to really carry the brand. But the other thing too is, heaven forbid you sell a product that all of a sudden something happens with that brand that's very negative, and now you're under fire. You know, it's like popular by association, unpopular by association. But I would hate to be in a scenario where you build somebody else's products, and then that other person says, thanks a lot, I appreciate you've grown my brand, now I'm gonna undercut you, I don't need you, you're done, and I'm not even gonna sell you my products anymore. It happens, it happened to me, so I would just, you know, be cautious on that, and no matter how good you think you have a deal with some company, trust me, when it comes down to money, they don't care. What are you gonna do, sue a big company? No, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna win. They'll bury you in legal costs, and they know it. So, do your own thing. If you can. That's my strategy.
Thank you for telling your stories,
You're welcome.
your ups and downs, for being a real person. Because some speakers will just say, do things, right?
Sure.
Because there's negative and positive. But for the new business owner or just starting as a business, what advice or a mantra or a wisdom that you can share with us?
Yeah, so the question is, what advice would I give to new entrepreneurs? What's my mantra? So first is, every time you hit a hurdle, that's where somebody else hit a hurdle and they stopped. And if you keep going, you're that much more successful and you're going to make it that much further. And eventually the hurdles stop. And then, someone once described it to me as being an entrepreneur is, and I think this is a great way of doing it, if I'm thinking about it, it's like being on a shipwreck and the ship has just exploded and the waves are just pummeling you every day, pummeling you. But eventually, that stops and the ocean gets a little calmer. And every once in a while, a rogue wave still hits you and hits you hard, but it's not all the time. And soon, it's back to smooth sailing and you've rebuilt the boat and you're going forward. But you can't get there. It's not going to be an overnight success. Things are not going to happen that quick. And so, again, hard work and dedication yield results. You've got to keep moving forward. You've got to keep getting up every time you get knocked down and just move forward. And so if I were a new entrepreneur, I would just really make sure, first of all, I would focus on a few things. One, find legal representation. Get all your contracts in order. I know nobody wants to spend that money at the beginning. Trust me, it is so important to have things written out, business partnerships, all these different things. Whatever you've got going on, make sure it's all in paper, because when shit hits the fan, you're going to be really glad you had that. And believe me, people always leave it. Oh, I don't want to spend $3,000 on a lawyer. Okay, great. Well, $3,000 on a lawyer now is so much cheaper than losing 50% of your business or losing your business later on. So first and foremost, it's like getting a prenup. Like, if you're going to get it, you're glad you have it. When the divorce comes, you're really pissed off you didn't do it. So I would make sure you've got everything aligned, number one. Number two, get a good accountant. Someone who will watch your money for you. You don't need to be doing that. Unless your business is being an accountant, then great. But if it's not, it's probably not your core skill set. The other thing I would do is really focus on what is my core skill set. What can I do? What can I do and what can I learn on my own? And then hire around that. And you don't have to hire people on full time. You can hire people on contract basis, but don't be afraid to spend a little money. It's everybody has this dream of, I'm not going to invest anything because I've got bills and I'm working a 9-to-5 job, so I'm doing my business after hours. And you know what? That's fine. But that's everybody. We're all in that scenario. We've all got bills. We're all doing these jobs after hours. Very few of us are fortunate enough to get into a point where it's sustaining us and it's growing and we're hiring on employees. And if you get there, wonderful. But you can't get there if you're 1 foot out the door. If you're 1 foot out the door in your business, your customers and your clients are going to be 1 foot out the door on you. So you've got to really make sure that if you're going into this, at what point am I going to leave my job and take the risk and do this full time. So just get everything proper. Get all your paperwork lined up. Get your, register your company. Set it up as a corporation. Do all the things you got to do in advance because it's so much more difficult later on. And if you really believe in what you're doing, it should be the first thing you do anyways. And I think building a business plan. Everybody wants to run to, let's create the logo and the name and the website and all that stuff. Because that's the fun stuff. That's the easy stuff. You're sitting down with your friends and you're, okay, make it red, make it blue. And, do the business plan. And really see if there is a company there. And by the time you get to the end of it, if it's a solvent company, if it looks like something that's going to go, then do all the fun stuff. But at least at that point, first of all, you've not wasted your time. Every business plan you write just gives you more experience for the next one. But it will also tell you if this is a real roadmap I can follow or not. So that's my opinion on starting a company.
Hi, Russ. I'm Sally Phillips, and I work in the alumni department at Durham College.
Yes.
We met a couple of years
Yes,
ago.
I have.
And I just wanted to tell you how proud we are to call you a graduate of Durham College, and that you're a great inspiration to our students to acknowledge the challenges as well as the successes, as you pointed out earlier.
Thank you so much. Say hi to Don for me as well.
I certainly will, and we look forward to following your career path, and we know you're going to do great things in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We'll a couple more.
Hi, I just wanted to know how important it was for you to find a mentor, or just want to hear about negotiating deals with people like Marvel and stuff like that. It seems like a bit overwhelming. So
Yeah. So the question is, did I find a mentor? How did I learn to negotiate deals? It's a great question because you don't wake up and just negotiate a deal out of nowhere. And recently I've had a friend who has a business here in Whitby, and they tried to get the Harry Potter brand, and they were really shocked that, first of all, they had a year just to even get Warner Brothers to respond to them, and then Warner Brothers said, it's like a $5 million this and that. I know all that now because I've been through it. But at one point, I hadn't, and at one point, I was way at the beginning. So Negotiating a deal is tough. My advice is this: you got to go into it knowing exactly where your bottom line is. First of all, you can't get pushed past that, and then you got to go way higher than that. And a deal is best met when both parties are uncomfortable. So first of all, if you're if you've got someone telling you, hey, look, you need to sign this with us, you're never going to find another deal, then move on. They're not uncomfortable, and if they're not uncomfortable, they're not really looking to be in any type of contract with you. But it just takes time. It's like anything, It's like learning to drive a car. Like, you just got to keep doing it. You've got to be willing to. You've got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, you have to be willing to step out of yourself and have these conversations. And it's not just with the Marvels of the world or the venture capitalists of the world. It's your employees. You're going to have to fire them, or they're going to start dating, and it's going to be an issue. And you're going to have to talk to them, and it happens. But you have to be able to have these conversations. And I think it's just so for me, much like everybody else, I hate conflict, but I also love it, and I go right for it, and I deal with it immediately. I don't let conflict sit around and weigh over me. I go right at it, because I know, first of all, if there's conflict or if there's something, a negotiation to happen, they're probably uneasy too. Regardless of how big or small they are, they're probably uneasy. And, I learned very quickly, isn't it funny how if you just kind of say, here's what I'm looking for, a lot of the times you'll just get it. Sometimes you get what you ask for. And ironically enough, that can be its own problem. Sometimes you get what you ask for. And so you really have to manage that and deal with it. But I've just found, my strategy is, I'm always really nice and polite. I let them know, here's what I'm looking for. We get into negotiation. At a certain point, I say, hey, look, I can't go past that. That's it. And if the deal falls apart there, the deal falls apart there, and we'll find another way around it. There's no, you can read a million books on how to negotiate deals and the art of that. But the truth is that everybody's different, and you have to have that ability in yourself to be like a bit of a chameleon, to kind of mold yourself into whatever archetype they are to work best with them. And I think that is just something that takes time. So you're not going to learn it tomorrow, but it's like anything. If you start tomorrow, you're just going to get better and better and better. It's like public speaking. I can come up here and tell my story and answer these questions, do all this, but I didn't start. I didn't start this way. It just comes over time. You just get naturally comfortable in front of an audience and so on and so forth. So I think negotiating deals is the same way. And just don't be afraid. Well, that's fear is what hinders most people in the negotiation process. Don't be afraid. There's so much money out there to be made. So much money out there to be made, guys. It's like endless amounts of money. People become rich every single day, and if that's your goal, you'll find a way around it. Anything else? Any other questions? Got time for maybe one more? Yes? No? Okay, guys, so I think that ends it for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Russ. Really appreciate the good and the bad and the ugly of entrepreneurship, because that truly is. I have an ask from everybody. We have the BACD pitch to win tonight at the Whitby Council Chambers from 6 to 9 p.m. We have 10 people pitching for a prize pack of about $10,000 between the three. And we'd love some more support. We're at about 70 tickets, and we'd love to sell a few more. If you have it in your schedule, we'd love to see you there. Otherwise, we'll see you at all the other Do It in Durham events. Friday night, we have the wrap-up. It's at Durham College. It's at the Center for Collaborative Education, which is right across from the Shoppers Drug Mart. So again, it's free. Please come out and wrap up the night. Also meet some of the student entrepreneurs that will be there. They'll be showing some of the products and services that they offer. And Frank has some closing comments.
Yes, I just, anyway, was he not awesome or what? You see what we got there? And we're also pretty excited because he's actually coming on board with the Humane Society, so you can see what a great skill set that he will bring to us. Here's the thing, our next event is January 16th. I'm delighted, it's one of my favorite events that I get the opportunity to volunteer on. January 16th would be our 19th session and 3 years in. We have an amazing lineup already for next year. We've got all the dates signed up. We're going to have an individual, for example, there's a gentleman, Mr. Loop here in Durham Region. Mr. Loop started with one guy actually under there doing the torch. He now owns, I think it's like 18 Mr. Loops. So, and that's Manny. So we have an amazing lineup. We also have some startups. One of the ones that I invested in, want to bring them in so they can share their journey. And we also have a gentleman named Anthony. Anthony works for the Pattison Group. So it's not always having to be your own entrepreneur. We recognize that we also work for other companies. Anthony, right now, he came to one of our sessions. He is the head sales guy for Pattison Group for Pattison Signs. So we're trying to bring in a diverse people from local, from across, but please rest assured we have an amazing lineup, and it's you that actually makes it awesome, including our speakers, Audrey. Kevin was here 2 months ago from Socialite Vodka. Pavel left. My mentor, you asked a question on mentoring. My mentor's in the back. His name is Angelo Del Duca. Angelo, stand up for a sec, please. Please, just stand up for a second. Yeah. This gentleman here is, I'm 56 years old. I've been to a lot of trenches myself, but when I quickly realized that I can learn so much from Angelo, I sort of became his shadow. So I encourage you, people want to help you. It is a sharing environment, and I encourage you to get people like Angelo that can help. And also, Angelo's going to be one of our speakers next year. I also want to thank the BACD. Andrea, who's not here, does a lot of the marketing. Of course, OPN, Daniel, and I wanted to thank you guys, and I wish you an awesome week. Be well.